She was thrown out into the storm, pregnant, alone, and left to die. Bitten by a deadly cobra, she should have perished, but she lived. Why? Because the child in her womb was no ordinary child. This is the story of pain, survival, and a child born for destiny. Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with AfriTales 38. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section, and generously hit the like button because it means a lot to us. Please relax and enjoy as we dive in the story. The night she ran. A cry in the darkness. It was a dark, stormy night. The wind howled like a wild animal. In a small village, a young woman named Ada, 7 months pregnant, sat silently in the corner of a cold room. Her husband, Chuka, shouted at her, his eyes full of rage. He accused her of things she did not do, claiming the child in her womb was not his. Ada cried and pleaded, but Chuka was not listening. In a blind fury, he opened the door and screamed, "Get out of my house. You're no longer my wife." With trembling hands and tears running down her cheeks, Ada stepped into the cold night. Rain poured heavily, soaking her clothes within minutes. She had nowhere to go. Her family lived far away, and no one in the village would dare challenge Chuka, who was known to be a proud and fearsome man. As thunder cracked across the sky, Ada ran aimlessly into the forest, barefoot and cold. Her heart beat fast, not just from fear, but from sorrow. The darkness swallowed her, and after walking deep into the woods, exhausted, she collapsed near an old tree stump. There, in the silence, something slithered nearby. But Ada was too tired to notice. Her breathing slowed, and everything went black. The bite, fangs in the shadows. The forest was thick with darkness. Rain still whispered on the leaves, though the storm had begun to pass. All around, strange sounds echoed, crickets chirping, frogs croaking, the distant hoot of an owl. In the middle of it all, Ada lay unconscious under a tree, her body soaked, shivering, and motionless. She had no idea where she was or how far she had run. Her breath was shallow, her face pale. The night had drained her of strength. Her hands rested on her swollen stomach, and now and then her lips moved as if calling for someone, but no words came out. Then, in the shadows, something moved. Silently. Smoothly. A long, dark snake slithered through the leaves toward her. It was a black cobra, deadly and feared. Its tongue flicked out as it sensed heat. Ada's body was warm, especially the area around her belly. To the cobra, she was an intruder, and it was close to where it usually hunted at night. It raised its hood slowly. Then, quick as lightning, it struck. Its sharp fangs sank into the side of Ada's lower belly. She gasped awake, a scream bursting from her throat. Her hands clutched her stomach as the pain exploded through her body. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw the snake slither away into the darkness. Then her head dropped backward as she struggled to breathe. "No. No," she whimpered. Her body began to shake violently. But then something strange happened. The pain that should have spread quickly, shutting her body down, didn't. She felt the burning near the bite, but her heart kept beating. Her vision blurred but didn't go black. Her breathing slowed, but she remained alive. The child inside her kicked. A strong, sudden movement. Ada cried out, tears mixing with the rain still dripping from the trees. She felt something stir inside her, not just fear or pain, but power. A force she had never known before. It was as if her baby was responding to the attack, fighting back, refusing to let her die. She didn't understand it. She couldn't explain it. But she could feel it. Her whole body trembled. Her skin turned cold, then warm again. Her heart beat faster. The poison from the snake seemed to pause, caught between moving forward or being pushed back. Ada closed her eyes as a strange heat spread across her belly, circling the bite mark. For a moment, everything became quiet. No more thunder. No wind. Just stillness. Then, Ada passed out again, but not from the poison. From exhaustion. In the village, Chuka sat alone in his room, unable to sleep. His hands trembled. His heart was restless. Even though he had forced Ada out of the house with rage in his voice, something inside him felt wrong. He kept remembering the way she cried. The way she begged. The way she stumbled out into the storm, barefoot, with a swollen belly. He shook his head and muttered, "She deserved it. That child's not mine." But no matter how many times he said it, something inside him disagreed. Suddenly, the lantern in his room flickered. The wind outside howled sharply and then stopped. A strange chill filled the room, and for a moment, he thought he heard her voice crying in the wind. He got up, went to the window, and looked out into the dark. No sign of Ada. No sign of anything. Just silence. He closed the window and sat back down. But the guilt did not leave him. Back in the forest. Morning slowly broke. The sky lightened to gray, then to pale blue. Birds began to sing softly, and a breeze moved through the trees. Ada opened her eyes again. Her body felt stiff, her clothes still damp. Her lips were dry, and her hands shook as she tried to sit up. Her side, where the bite had been, was sore and swollen, but not as painful as she expected. She remembered the snake. The pain. The child kicking. Then she felt her belly again. And the baby moved. She gasped and began to cry softly, out of relief and confusion. "You're still here," she whispered. "You stayed with me." She looked around. The forest seemed more peaceful now, less threatening. But she knew she couldn't survive long without help. She needed water. Food. Safety. Struggling to her feet, Ada leaned against a tree. Her legs wobbled under her weight, but she managed to walk a few steps. Then a few more. Slowly, carefully, she followed the sound of trickling water in the distance. After what felt like hours, she found a small stream. She fell to her knees and drank deeply, then splashed her face with the cold water. Her reflection in the stream shocked her. Her face was pale. Her eyes red. Her lips cracked. But behind the tiredness was strength. She was still alive. And her child had saved her life. Ada looked at the swollen bite mark again. 2 small punctures, red and swollen. But there was no blackening, no spreading poison. She touched it gently and shivered. What had happened to her? She remembered something from her childhood, stories her grandmother used to tell about spirit-marked children. Children born with signs of power. Some were protected by animals. Some were born with visions. Others had the power to survive what should kill them. Was her baby one of them? She remembered the bite, the pain, the strange warmth afterward. The way the snake had just left. That cobra should have attacked again, but it didn't. She didn't understand it yet, but she knew something unusual was happening. Something far beyond normal life. She sat by the stream, holding her belly, whispering, "Who are you, my child? What are you?" The child kicked again, almost as if answering. Far away in the same forest, someone else was watching. An old woman, hidden among the trees, stood silently with a walking stick in her hand. Her eyes, though aged, were sharp and wise. She had seen what happened during the night. She had seen the snake. She had seen the light around Ada's body as she slept. She had felt the presence of the mark. "The time has come," the old woman said softly. "A child has survived the cobra's bite. Just like the old sign said." She turned and disappeared into the woods. She would find Ada. Before others did. The awakening in the wild. Morning sunlight broke through the forest canopy. Birds chirped in the distance, and the world felt strangely calm. Ada slowly opened her eyes. Her body ached all over, and her head dropped. She didn't remember much, only the fight, the rain, the forest, and something sharp on her belly. She looked down. There was a bite mark, 2 small punctures near her side. Swollen, red, and painful. She winced. Her hands moved to her belly in fear. Was the baby okay? She felt no kicks. Her heart dropped. Then softly a movement. A faint kick. Tears of relief streamed down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, both to God and to the life inside her. Somehow, she and her baby had survived the night. But the danger was far from over. She had no idea how deep into the forest she had run. Her legs were weak, and her feet were cut and bruised. Her lips were dry. She needed water, food, shelter. Ada dragged herself to a nearby stream she could hear faintly. It took all her strength. When she reached it, she drank greedily from the clear water, splashing it on her face. The coldness shocked her wakefully. As she rested, she began to think. What had happened to her body? Why had she survived the cobra bite, especially in her condition? It was almost impossible. Maybe, something supernatural had taken place. Maybe the child she carried was not just a child, but something more. She remembered a story her grandmother once told, about certain children who were born under a special star. These children were protected from harm, born to bring change, destined to endure what others couldn't. Could her child be one of them? Suddenly, she heard a sound, crunching leaves. She turned quickly. A shadow moved between the trees. She wasn't alone. Ada tried to stand but fell back down. The figure stepped out. It was an old woman, wrapped in cloth, with a stick in her hand and a strange look in her eyes, half curiosity, half concern. "You're not from this forest," the woman said softly. "No," Ada whispered. "You shouldn't be alive," she added. "The cobra that bit you, it never leaves anyone alive." Ada blinked. "You saw it?" The old woman nodded. "I know that snake. And I know what it means when someone survives its bite." "What does it mean?" Ada asked. The woman stared at her belly. "It means, that child inside you is no ordinary child." Secrets of the Forest Woman. The old woman moved closer, her feet silent on the forest floor. Ada sat still, confused and frightened, her hands clutching her belly protectively. "I am Mama Ik," the old woman said, lowering herself onto a rock near Ada. "I live alone in this part of the forest. People fear me. They say I am a witch, but I am only a keeper of secrets, secrets the world has forgotten." Ada blinked at her. She had heard stories about strange women in the forest, herbalists, seers, even women who spoke to spirits. She never believed them. Until now. "Why are you helping me?" Ada asked. Mama Ik's eyes softened. "Because you carry something sacred. That snake, the cobra, it bit you and spared you. That is not by chance. That child in you has a spirit too strong to die." Ada looked down at her belly. Her baby. The child she thought might never survive the night. What is my child?" she asked slowly. Mama Ik touched the bite mark gently. "Your child is a light bearer. They are born once in a generation, children with fire in their spirit, protected by nature itself. The poison should have killed both of you. But the child's energy, it pushed it back. That snake didn't just bite you. It tested you. And you passed." Ada's head swirled with questions. "How can this be? I'm nobody. My husband doesn't even believe the baby is his. He drove me out." Mama Ik's eyes narrowed. "Yes. Men often fear what they don't understand. He could feel the child's strength and mistook it for evil. Many great things are feared before they are honored." Ada felt a tear slide down her cheek. "I have nowhere to go." "You do now," Mama Ik said simply. "Come with me." With great effort, Ada stood, leaning on Mama Ik. They walked slowly through the forest until they reached a small, hidden hut, made of wood, clay, and leaves. It was surrounded by herbs, flowers, and strange charms hanging from trees. Inside, the hut smelled of incense and dried roots. The floor was clean, and there was a small mat where Ada could lie down. Mama Ik gave her warm herbal water, then placed a hand over her belly. "This child is strong," she said. "But your body is weak. You need rest, herbs, and guidance. And your heart must be ready." Because what's coming will test everything you know. Ada frowned. What do you mean? Mama Ik didn't answer. She walked over to a shelf and put down a small, dusty book. Inside were drawings of women, children with light around them, cobras with fire in their eyes. Many years ago, another light bearer was born, Mama Ik began. Her mother was like you, chased out, abandoned. That child grew into a healer, a prophet. But people turned against her, afraid of her power. They destroyed her before she could fulfill her purpose. Ada gasped. They killed her. Yes, Mama Ik said. Because the world fears light in dark places. But your child might still have a chance. If you are willing to protect him. Ada's voice trembled. How? By learning. By healing. And by going back when the time is right. Back. Ada's heart skipped. To Chuka. To that village. Mama Ik nodded. Yes. Not now. But one day. The child must be known. The people must see what they rejected. And you must be the voice. Ada lay back, her mind spinning. She thought of the night she was cast out, of Chuka's rage, of the thunder and rain. She thought of the snake's eyes. Of the pain. But also of the kick she felt. That tiny life, fighting back. She stayed with Mama Ik for the next 2 months. Each day, the old woman taught her how to brew herbs, treat wounds, and listen to the whispers of the forest. Ada grew stronger. Her belly grew heavier, but her heart grew lighter. She began to understand what Mama Ik meant about light bearers. These children were born into pain, but they brought healing. They carried pain so others could find peace. One night, a strange dream came to Ada. She was standing in a river of stars. Her baby floated beside her, glowing. A voice spoke, "Come and dip, when the moon bleeds, you must return." She woke up sweating. The next day, she told Mama Ik. The old woman nodded slowly. The moon will bleed when the eclipse comes. A red moon. It is a sign. The sign of what? That it's time. Time to face your past. Ada felt her stomach tighten. I don't know if I'm ready. Mama Ik looked her in the eye. That's how you know you are. On a cool evening, 2 weeks later, Ada went into labor. It was long and painful. She screamed, cried, nearly passed out. But Mama Ik never left her side. She chanted, rubbed her back, whispered to her. And just before dawn, a baby boy entered the ward, his cry strong, his eyes wide open. But something unusual happened. As the baby cried, a light flickered in the air around him. Faint, like candlelight. And on his belly, near where Ada had been beaten, was a tiny birthmark shaped like a snake's head. Mama Ik gasped softly. It is confirmed. What is? Ada asked, holding the child to her chest. He carries the mark of the cobra. Not the bite of death, but the sign of protection. No evil can touch him. No curse can bind him. But many will try. Ada looked at her baby. He yawned, his little hands curled into fists. What do I name him? She whispered. Mama Ik smiled. He will tell you. That night, as Ada held him, she whispered names, David, Chima, Lotana, Zechora, but none felt right. Then, the baby opened his eyes, looked straight at her, and smiled for the first time. And in that moment, Ada whispered, Chokudelu. God has been kind. Mama Ik nodded. A perfect name. And when the moon turns red, the world will hear that name. The red moon is coming. 2 weeks after her son's birth, Ada was stronger than she had ever been. Her skin glowed with new life. Her eyes, once filled with sadness, now burned with purpose. Mama Ik's herbs and teachings had worked wonders, not just for her body, but for her heart. Every morning, Ada woke to the sound of birds and the scent of healing leaves. She would sing to her baby boy, Chokudelu, bathing him in the river that flowed near Mama Ik's hut. He was calm, alert, and unusually quiet. His eyes often stayed fixed on things unseen, as if he was watching the wind, listening to the trees. Sometimes, Ada caught the old woman staring at the baby, her face unreadable. "What are you thinking?" Ada once asked her. Mama Ik responded, "I'm thinking that this child will face great battles. But you will face greater ones." Ada paused. "What battles?" Mama Ik looked up at the sky. "The red moon is coming." That evening, the clouds gathered quickly. The air grew thick. Thunder roared in the distance. It wasn't a storm, something else was stirring. Mama Ik called Ada into the hut. She placed 3 stones on the floor, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black. "These are the colors of your journey," she said. Ada sat silently, listening. "The red stone," Mama Ik continued, "is the moon of your return. The white one is the child's light. The black one is the shadow that still follows you." Ada stared at the stones. Her heart pounded. She already knew what Mama Ik meant, Chuka. The man who had thrown her out. The man who had called her child a lie. The man who still had no idea that his wife had survived and that his son had been born under the Cobra's mark. "You must go back," Mama Ik said. "When the moon turns red, you must return to the village." "Why?" Ada asked. "Why return to a place that threw me away?" "Because they must see what they rejected," Mama Ik said firmly. "And your son's purpose is not just to live, but to shine. His name must be known, and his light must rise from the ashes of your pain." Ada's hands trembled. She looked down at Chokudelu, now sleeping peacefully in a basket made of palm fronds. Could she do it? Could she face those who had turned their backs on her? Mama Ik gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do not return as a victim," she said. "Return as a mother. As a woman who walked through death and came out with life in her arms." The days passed quickly. Each sunset brought more signs, the sky grew redder, and animals moved strangely. Birds flew in white circles. A lone wolf howled at night, deep in the forest. Even the wind carried a heavy silence. On the 7th day, Mama Ik stepped outside, looked up, and nodded. "It is time." That evening, as the moon began to rise, Ada wrapped her baby in clean cloth. She wore a long gown, white with patterns Mama Ik had drawn herself, symbols of protection, strength, and truth. At the door of the hut, Mama Ik handed her a small pouch. "Inside is ash from the snake's trail," she said. "The one that beat you? Rub it on your arms before entering the village. It will protect you from spiritual harm." Ada did as told. Then she looked back at the hut, the place where she had found healing, truth, and courage. "I'll come back," she said. Mama Ik smiled softly. "I know. But you won't be the same." And with that, Ada stepped into the forest path that led back to the village she had fled from in tears. As she walked, the moon rose fully behind her. It was no ordinary moon. It was deep red, glowing like a burning eye in the sky. Villagers stared up at it, whispering fears. Many locked their doors. Others dropped to their knees in prayer. Old women muttered, "Blood moon. Omen of change." Children were told to stay inside. Dogs barked at the sky. Fires were lit at crossroads. And into this silence, Ada walked, baby in arms, chin high, clothes flowing like the wind. As she stepped out of the forest edge, all eyes turned. Gasps followed. "Ada," someone whispered. "But she's supposed to be dead." "She's alive. And she has a child." Chuka heard the noise and came out of his compound, pushing through the crowd. When he saw Ada, he froze. His mouth opened, but no words came out. She walked straight toward him, stopping just a few feet away. "I lived," she said. "And I gave birth. To your son." Chuka's face turned pale. That can't be. You were bitten. By a cobra." "I was," Ada said calmly. "And I survived." "We both did." The crowd grew. Eyes widened. Some people backed away, whispering that she had returned with powers. Others knelt in fear, murmuring that the red moon had brought judgment. Ada turned to the people. "You chased me into the night," she said, voice steady. "You believed lies. You let fear decide my fate." No one spoke. She lifted the baby. "This child carries a mark," she continued. "Not of shame, but of protection. He was beaten, and he lived. He was hated before he was born, but he survived. He is proof that even from pain, greatness can rise." Suddenly, an old priest from the village stepped forward. He looked at the child and gasped. "I know this sign," he whispered. "It is the mark of the living light. A child born with this mark cannot be harmed by darkness. He is a sign." People fell silent. Chuka stepped forward slowly. Can I see him?" Ada hesitated. Then she looked at Chokudolu, then back at Chuka. She stepped closer and gently placed the baby in his arms. The moment the child touched his skin, Chuka dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes. "I was wrong," he said. "I was so wrong." Ada said nothing. She just watched. And in that moment, power shifted, not with force, but with truth. The villagers began to gather around her, asking for forgiveness, asking for blessing, asking to hold the baby. That night, under the red moon, Ada stood in the middle of a crowd that once threw her out. And she did not scream, or accuse, or curse them. She simply stood tall. Because the moon had bled. And light had been born. From rejection to glory. The red moon faded slowly into the night sky, but its memory stayed in the hearts of everyone in the village. What they had seen, Ada's return, her survival, and the child with the cobra's mark, left them in awe. It was more than just a reunion. It was a revelation. A miracle. In the days that followed, the village changed. People came to Ada's hut with gifts, yams, fish, oil, cloth. Not out of pity, but out of respect. Mothers brought their sick children, asking her to lay her hands on them. Women who had been cast aside found courage in her story. Men lowered their heads when they passed her, some asking for forgiveness. Ada remained calm. Humble. But she knew that something had shifted forever. She was no longer the woman who had been chased into the rain. She was now the mother of the light bearer. Chokudolu grew fast. In just a few weeks, he could already lift his head and follow sounds with his eyes. Children gathered around him as if drawn by a hidden force. Animals sat calmly by his side. Even elders admitted they had never seen such a baby. But Ada remembered Mama Ik's words, many would try to touch him, but not all with good hands. So she remained watchful. One night, as she bathed him in warm water, she saw something again, the tiny snake-shaped birthmark glowing faintly under the moonlight. She touched it gently. The child looked up at her and smiled. "You came into this world through fire," she whispered. "But you will not burn." She thought of Mama Ik often. She missed her deeply. She had wanted to go back to the forest, to tell her everything that had happened. But one morning, she made the journey, only to find the hut empty. The herbs had dried. The fire pit was cold. Mama Ik was gone. In her place, Ada found a single carved wooden token, tied with red thread. On it was a cobra coiled around a flame. And one note carved below it, "You are ready." Ada clutched it to her chest. She understood. Mama Ik had finished her mission. Now it was Ada's turn. Back in the village, Chuka slowly changed. He spent more time with the boy, learning to hold him, feed him, even sing to him. He built a small stool where he sat outside every morning, holding his son and watching the sky. Once proud and boastful, Chuka had become a man of few words. One morning, he said to Ada, "I still don't know how you survived." Ada smiled faintly. "I didn't." "We did." He nodded. "And I will spend the rest of my life protecting what I almost destroyed." It wasn't perfect. Ada still carried pain. Some wounds, even forgiven, take time to heal. But she accepted his effort. Not for the past, but for the future. especially for their son. 3 months later, a great storm struck a neighboring village. Their healer had died, and people were falling sick. They sent a messenger begging for help. Ada felt something stir inside her. "It's time," she said. She wrapped her child to her back, took her small healing bag, and followed the messenger. When she reached the other village, people stared. They had heard stories, but seeing her in person, carrying the Cobra-marked boy, walking in calm strength, was different. Ada went straight to the sick. She didn't shout or claim anything special. She simply placed her hands on their heads, gave them warm herbs, whispered prayers over them. In a few days, most of the sick recovered. The village gave thanks. A child walked up to her and asked, "Are you a queen?" Ada knelt down and smiled. "No. I'm just a mother." The child looked at Chokudolu, wide-eyed. "But is he a spirit?" Ada looked at her son. "No. He's a boy. A boy who survived a snake. A boy who carries light." The child nodded slowly. "Then he's special." Ada nodded. "We all are. If we let our pain become purpose." Over the months, Ada traveled from village to village. She taught women how to heal with roots and leaves. She helped young girls find their voice. She held crying mothers and spoke peace to angry fathers. Wherever she went, people gathered. She became known as Ada Nwani Oku, Ada, the woman of fire. But the name she carried with the most pride was simply Mama Chokudalu. Her son remained her greatest miracle. Not because he was famous, or feared, or gifted, but because he reminded her daily of what she had survived. Years later, Ada stood at the edge of the same forest where she once collapsed, broken and beaten. Now, her son was 7. He stood beside her, tall and quiet, watching birds in the trees. "This is where it all began," she told him. "Where I was born?" he asked. "No," she smiled. "Where you were chosen. Where life tried to end you, and you said no." He looked at her. "Why would life do that?" "Because light must be tested before it can shine." He nodded, then reached for her hand. They stood there together in silence. No longer afraid of the forest. No longer haunted by the past. But walking forward, with heads high, hearts healed, and light shining from within. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and share.